This meeting is being recorded.
There we go. Everyone's got their everyone's ready to go. So yeah, before we kick off, I just would like to acknowledge I'm coming to you from the lands of the Turrbal and Yagara people, and we do acknowledge that we pay our respect, to leaders past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge that ownership has never been ceded. And yes, welcome to our first Insider. It's so exciting to have you all here today. We are kicking off these sessions as our very first one. It is going to be part of a series that we're doing, and we can't wait to share more learnings and more just more interesting information with our community. So as I said, the Insider is a chance to get to know you, our community, better, and just have some really great conversations. Every time we have a conversation with our community at Code Like a Goal, we're just always so inspired and with so many different ideas, and we're ready to take on the world. So we wanted to do more of that. But we also wanted to get you front row and center with our wonderful partners. We know that a lot of people in our community are wondering about their next step or even their first step into a tech career. So we saw the Insider as a chance to sit down with Australia's top tech teams, ask the tricky questions, ask the juicy questions, get you all the information that you need to know to make the best decision for yourself and your future when it comes to a career in tech. So in just an hour, you're going to learn about what is so great about the organisation we're meeting and the top tips you can give to land your dream job there. And as I said, you can ask questions as well. So this is a monthly event that will be happening in the Insider, so keep an eye out for them. It's a free event, lunchtime, bring your lunch, have a chat and learn more about getting started in a tech career. So we are kicking off the Insider with the wonderful Pepperstone, a partner of Code Like a Goal for 12 months. They are an online trading broker specialising in Forex, index share, commodities and cryptocurrencies. They were founded in 2010 in Melbourne, Australia, and seek to be a unique and fintech and a global.
Sorry, there's a lot of background noise coming in. Can we have everyone muted?
Yeah, we do. There we go. Thanks for that. Beautiful. Sorry, I just got over. I'm back. So Pepperstone, I'm really excited to dive into Pepperstone today because I think one of the most important things to discuss is why a fintech career can be particularly important for women. Tech itself is usually a male-dominated profession. For many women, it can feel too much to work in such a male-dominated industry as well. But as we've learned from tech, the opportunities for women in these male-dominated industries are endless. And I think that the women in the room today are really going to help to showcase that. So I'd like to introduce our panel. And as I talk, I'm going to spotlight them as they come to the stage. We do have Lubna Ahmed. Lubna is a solutions architect. She loves chatting everything from software engineering, people leadership, delivery management, and solutions architecture. Lubna has been in the tech industry for over 20 years, and so she has great advice about advancing your career. Shraddha Patel is a data engineering team lead, and she has recently taken on some people responsibilities for the first time in her career. She's also new to the fintech industry, so I'm looking forward to learning more about why she made that move into the industry. Fiona McConnell is an agile business analyst. Fiona moved into tech without formal education, and after 20 years in a different field, she initially joined Pepperstone as an executive assistant, so I just can't wait to learn more about her story. And finally, we have Pia, who is the people and culture business partner at Pepperstone, and she's our recruitment expert on the panel today. Pia has the advice you need to prepare your resume and nail your interview. So let's jump in. I'm going to find the team. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to spotlight those people if I can find them. Here we go. Shraddha, come up to the stage. Lubna, I just saw you and now you've gone. One sec.
Yeah.
There we are. I've got you. There we go. The spotlight. Yeah. Where we go. And Fiona. Welcome to the screen. I know I just gave you a very brief overview, each of you, but I would love to start off with a bit of a intro to each of you before we kick in. Pia, would you mind kicking us off by sharing a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm currently the People and Culture Business Partner at Pepperstone. So I've been here about coming up to 3 years. I think we were just under 100 people. We had 2 locations, whereas now I think we're at about the 260 mark, 7 offices. We've grown quite a bit. It's really exciting to be part of such a growing company, and currently supporting our digital transformation. So working quite closely with all the lovely ladies on the IT team that are here today.
Beautiful. Thanks, Pia. Lubna, would you like to intro yourself next?
Sure. Yep, thank you. So I've been, as Amy said, been working in this industry for over 20 years. I started with Pepperstone about 4 weeks ago. And I've worked for companies like the defense company, Siemens Railway. I've worked for ANZ. I've worked for smaller consulting companies, mobile companies. And I'm here at Pepperstone and very, very excited to be here.
Okay, thanks, Lubna. Shraddha, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Shraddha, very fresh in Pepperstone, about 1.5 months in. And this is my first people leader kind of a role. So it's exciting and daunting at the same time. But Pepperstone has been really supportive of all my confusions and how to, just talk to the right people and things like that, which is very good. Before this, I've worked at Foxtel, Australia Post, Crown, a bunch of other small contracts, but this is my first time in the fintech industry. So very excited.
Wonderful, thanks, Shraddha. And Fiona, how are you? Can you give a little intro to your amazing journey?
Thanks, Amy. As Amy said, I'm an agile business analyst at Pepperstone, but I did start as the EA to our wonderful CEO in a contract role, and then magic happened and I ended up saying yes to a job in an industry that I had zero expertise, knowledge or formal education in. So I've come from stockbroking, more or less 20 years. I've been a content writer, trader, working in research, so a good handle on trading, but certainly not in a fintech environment. So been here now for almost coming up, or 2.5 years, coming up to 3 years. And it's amazing, absolutely amazing. I wish I know back then what I know now, because I certainly would have just sideswiped that whole stockbroking thing and gone straight into the tech stream. It's amazing.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear. Yeah, I can't wait to jump a little bit more into why the move and what inspired you. But before to start off, I'd like to go to you, Shraddha, if that would be all right, to talk about, this is your first job in the fintech industry. Can I ask, why did you move into this industry?
Growing up, especially in my family, like the conversations about investing and managing money in general, I wasn't that involved, but I always saw my brothers being more involved in those kind of conversations. I would get curious, I would ask questions, and sometimes they'd be answered, sometimes I'd just be told, like, go do something else, like, why do you need to bother about finance and managing your own money? And I think the story hasn't changed even now. I still have a lot of friends who don't necessarily manage their own investments. They might have mortgages, but that's about it. Like, they don't invest actively. And I just used to read a lot of Reddit posts and try to read some books, but it was still really hard to kind of grasp what fintech is and how do you go about investing, and everything really always felt very daunting. So I was like, if I do move to this industry, then maybe I'll get a much better idea of what goes on. And it's all very exciting, but it's also very scary because there's just a lot of jargon involved and I don't know what it means, and it's really hard to just get to know all these things from the outside. So I think that was the major reason why I moved to fintech. Yeah.
Beautiful. So 1.5 months in, has it been a rapid learning experience then?
Yes, some days I feel like I know everything. there is to know about fintech, and then some days I'm like, I don't know anything.
You're not alone there.
Yeah, so I think it's going to take a while, but I think I am having more days where I feel like I know a little bit more now, feel more settled. And yeah.
Is the passion growing? Like, is the passion to find out more growing because from being immersed in a fintech organization?
Yes, for sure. I just end up Googling so many things. Sometimes late at night, and my partner always complains about it. Like, why are you so interested in this? But it's just what it is.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. So, Pia, as a fintech market leader, are there any other programs that Pepperstone is delivering to get women more excited about fintech?
Yeah, so obviously we're partnering with you, which we're very excited about. We also have a scholarship that we co-sponsor with some other companies. We've actually got those students coming to us next week. So they get an opportunity to sit in and shadow one of our board meetings, which is really exciting. And I think they're going to join us for an internship as well. So those kind of hands-on opportunities, I think, do a lot to make it less daunting. We actually also have a recent program that just launched called the Female Trading Squad. So our sales team have actually designed this program for us. It's basically a community of women that want to learn about trading. They want to understand what it takes to become a successful trader through one education, but also networking and mentoring, because same as tech, trading is male dominated. So I'm really excited to kick that off. And currently it's only an internal program, but who knows, we might take it out further in the future. I think also our team members are our best advocates. So, under no illusion that people will stay with Pepperstone forever. If they get really excited and they have a good time here, they will share that with other people they meet later on in their career. And I think last but not least, on the recruitment side, definitely trying to always have a diverse shortlist. So if I'm in control of that, I can obviously influence that. But even if we're working with recruitment agencies, just asking, why is there only men in the shortlist? What's happened here? Can you explain? And just putting them on the spot and saying, we're actually happy to wait an extra week or two. But, why is there not a single woman?
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. I love that female trading squad. That sounds really cool. And if you ever were to make it external, I think you should send it Code Like a Girl's way. I'm sure there's a few in the room that went, oh, that sounds interesting. I know I'm interested.
Once we do, I'll send it around.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, Lubna, you've had a really long career in tech, particularly in fintech. What stood out to you when you interviewed with Pepperstone after being in the industry for so long, and why did you decide to take this job?
Okay, all right. So a few things. I think firstly, what Shraddha said, I was really keen to learn about investment and what to do with my money. And so when I actually retire, I want to make sure that I can live comfortably. So really interested in finance. And then the other thing that really stood out was the interview. So at the interview, they made me feel very welcomed. So that means that, they were listening to me. They were not trying to poke holes, just find faults. They were trying to, listen to what I know, right? And anything I didn't know, they offered me a learning opportunity. I said, okay, that's fine. If you don't know, we have learning opportunities here where we can help you. So I love that about Pepperstone. Great culture. So they told me that they have a great culture, and being here for 4 weeks, I can say that they do. Really, really wonderful people, and very, very helpful. And then also I love their working from home policy. Actually, they don't have a policy, which is fantastic. And they're open to sort of working with me and figuring out what works for me and then what works for them. And then we work together to come to a conclusion how we're going to work on that. So those are the few reasons that I thought that I joined Pepperstone. Yeah, and it's really important to, when you're at the interview, to not only be interviewed, but also find out more about, what the company's like, what the leader is going to be like, and so that when you actually go in there, you're happy in your position and your situation.
Yeah. So being in the, you mentioned that feeling so welcome and included was perhaps a standout in the interview process. No. So you've obviously been through interviews where you didn't feel so included and you didn't feel like you were going to be part of the culture. What would your advice be to any of the people that are on the call today who do feel similar during an interview? They might not have the confidence that you do after 20 years in the industry. So, yeah, what advice do you have someone who doesn't have as much experience into dealing with those interviews that just don't feel right?
Okay, so are you asking like what is it to look out for that doesn't feel right?
What is it to look out for? And yeah, and if it happens, if you don't feel good,
yeah,
should they keep going to the interview or should they walk away? What's the
no, okay, don't walk away. Obviously, finish the interview. Doesn't matter how bad it is, right? So I've been in an interview where I'll give you an example. First 10 minutes, they were engaged, and then after that, the guy started drawing on his book. So he just started doodling, drawing some pictures. So this was face to face. This was many years ago. And he was just drawing. And then, he just wasn't like even looking at me. He was just answering questions, blah, blah, blah. So I have been in situations like that, but don't walk out. Whatever you do, finish it in a very well-mannered fashion and then go off and,
find somewhere
out of there, do whatever you need to, scream, whatnot. But recommendation is also to always complete those interviews, no matter how hard, so that you don't get a reputation in the industry, right? Because there will be another job, there will be another place. So those are the things, watch. And obviously, if they did give me that job, I would not take it because it just didn't resonate with me. But those are the things you need to watch out. And eye contact. Are they listening to you? Are you going to feel like you're going to learn there, right? What are their learning programs? Those are some of the questions you can ask. What's the leader like? You need to resonate with the leader. If the leader is like, you don't have that good connection, then don't go there.
Yeah.
Those are just a few tips.
That's great advice. Thanks, Livna. Now, Fiona, you've had such an interesting journey into tech. I'd love to explore a little bit more about why tech, and why tech, and what do you do now, and why do you love it so much?
There was a bit of serendipity around this. I was in a space where I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I had done a couple of small roles that I was unhappy with, different industries, and then found myself at Pepperstone as an EA, which I loved. It was wonderful. It was a 6-month contract that went like lightning because it was so much fun. So it wasn't really the tech that drew me in, because at that point in time I wasn't thinking like that. I wasn't thinking, oh gee, I want to work here so I can get in, as a segue in. I just fell in love with the culture and the people, and I was very lucky enough to be around people who really had a growth mindset. So it wasn't, oh no, this is where you stay. There's no room here for you because you've got no skills beyond what you're doing now. It wasn't like that at all. So I really do think that it was testament to my good stakeholder engagement that allowed me to have a conversation with someone who suggested that I might have some skills that I could transfer into this role. So at the time I said to Tamas, our CEO, can I do this? Do you think I can do this? And he said, well, you've got all the other attributes to be successful. He said, just go and learn it. And it gave me the confidence to just drive forward. And at that time, there were people there who were willing to, and still are, there are people willing to take you on that journey and spend the time to help you learn, give you guidance, mentor you through. It wasn't the only confidence shakers I ever experienced really were my own internal, dialogues and things. I copped a bit of stick from some outside influencers who thought it was kind of weird that, I was taking on a job like this, and none of them were women, incidentally. We tend to hold each other up in this space. But I came to the conclusion that was really a lot about them rather than me. So, I remember getting a meme sent from someone, you know, in my circle that was the IT crew. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but the bumbling woman, marketing woman who knew nothing about IT, who was caught up with these two guys in the basement. It's a comedy. It's fantastic. If you haven't seen it, watch it. But he would send me those alluding to the fact that, well, this is you. You've got zero understanding of anything. You're not going to be able to do this. And that guy wasn't working in IT at the moment, but considered himself a tech guy. So I got it. I really did. I really got it. So rather than feel undermined by it, I use it as an impetus to just move forward and keep going. Not that I'll show you, you know, thing in the back of my mind. But other than that, you know, I really didn't deal with any negativity. I've come from a really hyper-masculine industry. Stockbroking and equities is extremely hyper-masculine. The same people come through the door. The promotions are given to the same people. They look the same. They talk the same. You know, they've been to the same school. They know the same people. It's enormously nepotistic. And I really, really, really appreciated that Pepperstone was the antithesis of that in absolutely every single way. So it was all about opportunity, no matter where you were from, no matter who you are. You had the desire to learn, you were collegiate, you know, you worked well, and you just wanted to, you know, hit goals, then that's all was really required. So, yeah, it wasn't really the tech thing, but now that I've been doing this job for 2 years, I've got this newfound love of it. The more that you learn, the more you want to know. And when you're in tech, you're a life learner. It's unequivocal. Things change so much, you're just going to keep learning. And if you've got an inquiring mind, then it's going to be the most amazing place to be in. And the money is awesome. So there are so many ticks in the boxes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks, Fiona. The chat is lighting up with your story, so thank you. We'll touch back on a little bit more of some of the things you've spoken there, Fiona. Particularly, I do want to dive into imposter syndrome soon. But Pia, first of all, I'd love to chat. Is Fiona an anomaly, or is formal qualifications necessary in a tech role?
I don't think so. So I don't think she's an anomaly. We're certainly seeing more of it. I'd say it's obviously a lot easier in technology roles that perhaps aren't directly coding. So those roles where you can use your soft skills that you've acquired in previous roles. So we've got, you know, Fiona, we've got someone that was an estimator in construction and is now a business analyst. Quality assurance tends to be a field that people can quite easily kind of jump into. But I will also say in a previous role, there was a woman she was a translator, Turkish to English. I think she did like Netflix translations. And she just taught herself coding and she found her first job. And I think now she's working at Atlassian. So, you know, quite the journey. So I'll definitely say, as Fiona said, the ongoing learning and that desire to continue to learn is much more important than formal qualifications. Our team, a lot of people do have formal qualifications just because quite an international flavour to us. So a lot of us have used that as a pathway to come into Australia. But yeah, it's absolutely not necessary. So it's more about, you know, the desire to learn and probably, you know, yes, the tech stack that you're learning, but more so even the principles. So when you know, talking about like coding principles, etc. So I think that's probably, more important than anything formal.
So some of the women on the call today, they might not be like this could be their very first tech job they're looking for. So they might not have too much experience to show for that lifelong learning. Would you look for it in other areas of their life, like commitment to sport or music or volunteering or hobbies? How broad a story does sort of the whole person play when you're interviewing someone at Pepperstone?
I definitely think those things play into it as well. But there's lots that you can do either, you know, I mean, if you're doing a program like Code Like a Girl, that already shows us you're committed, you're learning, right? So yes, there might be opportunities in volunteering or sports, but you know, even the fact that you've enrolled into it, or you talk about networking, you're active in that way. You know, those are some of the opportunities you can take.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Pia. Fiona, you mentioned that the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome was actually within yourself. I guess it's commonly referred to as imposter syndrome. I recently reflected with an intern partner of ours, a new intern partner who received our list of interns for the first time and was shocked that not only of the quality of the candidates in our intern float, but also that none of them had applied directly to her, and they're a big multinational, shocked that these women of such high caliber hadn't had the confidence to apply directly. So imposter syndrome, it's a common issue that women have to get over. Yeah. How did you face it? Or in hindsight, how would you face it better? What advice would you give to someone?
That's a huge question, and it's a very pertinent one, because none of us, I guess, even if we're a chair or if we're a CEO or if we're, you know, everyone has self-doubts along the way at some point. So it's easy to internalize and just think it's just you, and that the rest of the people that you work with have got it going on and get.
Sorry, I'm just
wondering if someone could just mute there.
I'll just.
That's great.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, so I think what I really needed to do was, they seem to happen when something didn't work out for me, or I made a mistake, or, you know, and the self-loathing and all that. I had a great mentor at the time, and I would work through that with him. So one of the things I did do was create a network of safe places for me to talk that through, because more often than not, people go, oh my God, I feel that way too. Oh my God, that happened to me. I am so not smart. When you know, looking at them, that, oh, yes, I'm intimidated by you. So, you know, I tried to foster those relationships that I knew were going to lift me up when I needed it. And more often than not, you were doing that for them too. And I had to learn to focus more on my strengths rather than my gaps in my knowledge, or what I perceived as my weaknesses, because that's how you succeed. You succeed by playing on your own strengths, and those things will come in time. You just iterate. So, yeah, it's a very, very good question. I think, you know, just utilising other means to do that as well outside of work, like work balance, things like that. Not turning on and turning off at points in the day and gatekeeping your time. So you've got a clear head to really rationalise these things, because they're always gonna crop up. But if it's something that is a barrier to you when you want to go to that next level, or you want to pitch for that, I don't know, product owner role, or something that you're like, oh my God, I'm really going out of my, who the heck I think I am, really just go for it, because the only learnings you ever get is when you're uncomfortable, and had discomfort for the good part of 2 years. And my learning's been exponential on the back of it. So it's a hard one. And as a woman, we all need to know that, man, we do a lot. A lot of us have got kids. A lot of us have got, you know, all sorts of other stuff going on. And it's not just about rocking up to the job and coming home and putting your feet up. There's a lot of stuff we've got to juggle. Yeah. And we don't need imposter syndrome. We've got 99 problems. So I think we just try and we just try and mindset. So it becomes a less of a feature.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks. Listen, full disclosure, I'm juggling right here today, Fiona. I've called on a friend, another mum in my little mum community to come and help out with my children. So, yeah, we're juggling all the time, and we're making it look. Well, I hope I'm making it look seamless. I know you're making it look seamless, Fiona. So, sometimes I feel like we should let a few balls drop, and people can realise just how much we're doing. But that's a whole other conversation. Shredder, I would love to talk to you a bit about the changes that you have seen in the teams that you've worked on over time. You know, do you feel it's getting easier for women in IT? And what advice would you have for women who are struggling in an IT role?
I don't necessarily think that it's getting easier, but it's much better from all the horror stories that I've heard from other women who have had much more work experience. So yeah, I feel like I'm still very early on in my career to like, you know, make that distinction that, oh, it's easier now or it used to be harder. But just from my experience, like I feel that there are a few things that male-dominated engineering teams, especially, they seem to have in common. I don't know how much of this experience translates to everyone else, but I've noticed that like technical people, especially engineers, they get into IT because they don't want to talk to people. They just want to be behind a computer, do their thing, you know, code all day, and then log off. That's generally the impression. But what I've found happens over time is it introduces a lot of inefficiencies because people are not communicating that frequently. They're not communicating that well with each other, and then the rest, like other teams outside from their own, you know, tiny team who's working on a product. And I think that is where I feel like I found that tiny niche which I'm really good at, which is just talking to people, making sure everyone is aware, everyone around the team is aware of what is happening. And yeah, I guess like that's something that I've seen, that there is always that struggle, you know, people don't want to talk to each other. It's not intentional. It's just that technical engineers, like they have a personality type, not wanting to talk to too many people is one of them. I think the other.
Would you say that and I guess like we're a big advocate for, yeah, a lot of people in general think that a career in tech won't suit them because they prefer something more creative, or they prefer to, you know, communicate and talk to people. So it's really good to hear the importance of these other skills. You know, you don't have to be good at maths to be good at tech. You can, yeah, being able to talk to people is actually an asset. So that's really important to hear. I think the more people we can share that information to, the better, to include more people. I think, you know, we're all here to make tech better. So the better communicators we have, the better the tech will be. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing which seems to happen in male-dominated teams is there's a little bit of a lack of empathy. And again, it's not intentional, at least in the places I've worked at. It's definitely not intentional. It's mostly that it's just an afterthought. Like the idea is you're coding and that's about it. Like everything else is not a part of my job. So why do I have to go and look after junior developers who are struggling with something? Why do I have to talk to them? Why do I have to teach them? You know, that kind of thing. And it also doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. So we need to understand that as well. But I think as women in tech, like that is the other aspect that we can really bring in. And yeah, I feel like I really succeed in that, because a lot of times you see other team members who are just like, you know, struggling to ask a question, and because it might feel like it's a little dumb or something. And sometimes engineers might not respond to it in a nice manner. So like having that, like, you know, knowing that this happens, and it happens a lot to juniors, especially in the team, like looking after them could be the other thing that I think having that women energy in the team.
Yeah, I love that. I think empathy is such an important skill for so many of us to have, and we have a lot of conversations at the Code Like a Girl team about the importance of empathetic leaders, you know, at every stage. So yeah, I love that, and I think I think it almost touches in on what Fiona mentioned in overcoming that imposter syndrome. My internet is unstable. My computer's telling me I might be a bit shaky at the moment. We're good, great. You know, Fiona talking about having that group of women that you went to snap you out of your, you know, when you were challenging yourself, you know, perhaps Shredder, that could be some great advice for women who are entering tech to seek out other women. They don't necessarily have to be in your team, but across the teams, and build that little network to support yourselves through, because there is a change coming. Empathy in leadership, it will be here in our lifetimes, but it could just come a little bit faster, I think. That's awesome.
If I can jump in there as well, sorry.
Yeah,
I think one of the things you can look out for, and we're not there yet at Pepperstone, but we're working on it, is creating career paths for people in engineering that want to be people leaders, and career paths for people that have no interest in it. Because at a lot of organizations, what you'll find is you'll progress in engineer role, and then there's nowhere for you to go. All you can do is become a team lead. And if you want to make more money, that's what you have to do. But there are people that have no desire to do that. And so I think it's really important for organizations. And as I said, we're yet to, you know, figure it out perfectly, but I think it's really important to build those career paths. And so if you're looking for an employer, that's one of the questions that you can ask is around what the career paths are for people that prefer a technical track. Chances are, hopefully, they'll have leaders in leadership positions that actually enjoy the mentoring, that enjoy spending time with you, and have that empathy aspect that Shraddha mentioned.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I think, P, you and I spoke about it separately, just having more training for managers in people leading, but if it's not natural and you don't want to do it, you shouldn't be forced to do it as well. So that's really great to hear that Pepperstone is leading the charge with that sort of change. It's really important. Ben's commented in the chat that to you, Shraddha, that had his first job at an engineering firm. He was given a project to do and had no idea. And when he tried to get help from the older guys, it felt like an imposition. So I think it's a great learning for us all. You know, Ben, I'm assuming that you identify as a man. Sorry if you do not. But I am, so I think that it's good to know, you know, we might feel that it's because we are women, we are just starting out in our, thanks Ben, we're just starting out in a career that we're not getting the help we need, but it happens to men in the same position as well. So we can find that empowering to speak up, because it needs to improve, definitely. Lubna, I want to talk to you. Let's come back to the money. Money makes the world go round, and it's so important. Women during the first wave of, I'm not sure if you know this, but women during the first wave of COVID were the most likely to lose their jobs and the least likely to receive government assistance for losing their job, because we make up the majority of short-term casual labour market. The financial situation that women as a whole find them in is quite scary in Australia, and I'm very passionate about talking about money in IT because it's our future. It's the future for us and our sisters and all the women that we know. So Lubna, let's talk pay. How good is it in IT?
All right. If you want money, get into IT. If you're struggling, go for IT. You will never be out of money. So yeah, so that's so actually so the pay is great. 20 years I haven't been out of a job. There are times where I was sort of unhappy with my pay, to be like, you know, not because it was not much, but it was because it was different from my male peers, right? So that's something like, you know, when you actually get in, I think the industry is getting better on that. But previously, you know, many years ago, I realized that I was not getting as paid as much as my male peer. So that's something to sort of watch out for, and it can happen. But I've sort of adjusted that as I grew in this career and started to understand things better. So money is great. Actually, I didn't get into this because of the money. Like when I first started off, it was because I actually wanted to go against what my father was saying. So my dad always thought females cannot be IT, females cannot be engineers, they have to be a doctor or something like that, or a nurse or whatnot. So I really didn't like that. And I wanted to prove to him that no, females can be engineers and
Rebel.
females can do well in this space. So that's why actually I got into it. But I'm so glad that I did, because it's been, you know, fantastic 20 years, and I encourage, you know, females to get into it. And you don't have to be a software engineer. You can be other things, like the team is saying here. You know, you can be a tech delivery manager. You can be a tech BA. You can be a tester. So I've done testing in my career as well. I've done testing. I've done delivery. You can do automation engineering. You know, there's so many roles and so many opportunities out there, and they all pay great money. So go for it.
And just going back, sorry, to talk about the creative side that Sharda had mentioned, that there's this perception that it's all about the math. Absolutely no way. We have unreal UX designers that are women in our midst that are absolutely crushing it and getting paid well. And and even when you're talking about a sort of back-end dev work, there is creativity in that, absolutely, because you're always looking for solutions, you know, to not just fix problems, but create really, you know, great software that's not going to break, you know, 5 minutes down the track. So absolutely, if you've got a creative bent and you want to flex that, then there's room there. There's totally room there.
And you're not going to get bored. There's always something new, like, you know, yeah. So if you like a challenge, you don't want to get bored doing the same thing, technology is the way to go. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. I love it. So Pia, we've heard these wonderful stories from your wonderful staff, and I'm sold. I'm not in tech. I don't know anything about tech, but I'm sold. But so I'd love to get from you the resume tips that you're looking for. If someone wants to apply for a job with Pepperstone after this great session, what are you looking for in a resume? And if someone does secure an interview, what's the best advice you could give to them to nail that interview?
So many questions. So I don't review resumes on my own. So typically, if you're applying for an engineering role, there will be an engineering manager or a senior engineer reviewing alongside with me. One of the things we've removed is a cover letter. Like, I look at them daily. I find them so stressful to write myself, so let's not ask people to do that. But we do ask a few application questions, and some of them centered around learning and development. And I think what we're looking for is really sort of that culture add, that track record of going out and learning new things, and a lot of those soft skills as well. I think the best thing you can do is throughout your career, update your CV like every 6 months or so. Do the same with your LinkedIn page, get someone else to have a look over it. It can be really easy to forget what you've worked on. And I'd say actually do the same for, say, REM review and those kind of things. Like when someone tells me like, Pia, great job, I'm like, screenshot goes into my presentation, right? You should do the same for your resume. And if there's something that you've achieved that is measurable, that's always great to add. So I can only think of sales examples right now, but in an IT world, you might talk about how you removed lines of legacy code and the impact that's had. So it's always great to show, not just say this is what I've done, but this is the impact that I've had.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've heard it reflected back to me to other talent managers that don't just talk about a project that you've worked on. Tell the story about what you did in that project. What actual elements of the project did you have your hands on that you can be proud of? Is that sort of thing you're looking for as well?
Definitely, and I think it can be difficult sometimes for us to own that. We're looking for people that collaborate with others, and so it can be against maybe our nature to say, well, this is what I did. This project would not have gone forward without me. But yeah, definitely, I think in an interview, that's what you're going to do, right? You want to sell yourself, so you do have to talk about your specific contribution. And share about how you worked in a team, but don't say, we decided to do this, then we did that. It's very difficult for someone to assess what role you played.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. What about the gender pay gap, Pia? Is Pepperstone working to putting any measures in place to ensure they're helping to overcome the gender pay gap in tech?
Yeah, so as an employer, with over 100 employees in Australia, we complete annual reporting for WGEA, so the Workplace Gender Equality Agency. And it does touch on pay, but it touches on other things as well that we've talked about today. So the gender composition of the workforce, how many, including at leadership levels, so how many women do we have in leadership position, the equality of remuneration between women and men, which is what you asked about. But also, you mentioned the juggle today and having your children with you. So the availability of flexible working arrangements and other things to support those with caring responsibilities, because more often than not, those fall on women, right? So we use the annual report, and then we look at that every year to see how we've progressed. Our annual REM review as well, which is just about to come up in the next month, and then ad hoc as well if we see there's if we see there's a difference between roles, especially like for like, it's obviously easy to compare as well. And then personally, I have this rule in recruitment, and I used to work in recruitment agencies. And I could see that especially a lot of women that had had children that had worked part-time, they had gotten penalised. And there's other reasons that people might have a really low salary. They might have a sponsorship through their employer. It might be a career change, so they accept a low salary just, for the sake of getting that foot in the door. So I never ask about current salaries. It's my number one rule. If you're talking to me on the phone, I'm never going to ask you what your current salary is. I'm always asking you the salary you're looking for, because I don't think it'd be fair for someone to say, I'm on 80K, I've got a 120K budget for the role, but I'm only going to give them 90 because I know they're on 80K. Where, so asking people what they're looking for, and obviously working within the budget that I have, and I do have those conversations really early on in the call as well. But I think that's important to ensure that if someone starts on a low salary, it doesn't continue throughout their entire career.
Yeah, definitely. And I think engineers, organisations that show up for their potential staff from the start and pay them what they're worth from the start is going to see that long-term employment commitment, to their organisation. So that's really good. The questions are starting to build up on the chat, so I'm going to ask one little last, throw it out to the team. Pep, obviously loved hearing more about Pepperstone today. I've loved getting to know you over the last year as a partner of Code Like a Girl. Your commitment to diversity and inclusivity is obvious, and I always have a great time when I meet anyone from Pepperstone. But is there any other cool or interesting things that Pepperstone is doing? If you could leave our community with one little thought or idea this afternoon, it's the afternoon, what would it be about why Pepperstone is so good and why you're working there? Fiona, do you
Shall we go? I think we're doing some really cool. Sorry.
No, you go.
We're doing some really cool things around ESG. So we're working towards being carbon negative by 2023, and we've got keep cups and little salad bowls in the office, which is cool. We obviously I mentioned the scholarship and the partnership with Code Like a Girl as well. And we have volunteer leave, which some of us are using to do something completely different. I think there's a team that wants to go and build fences, which is great, but some of us are using the skills that we have. So my colleague, Letitia, she actually went out and did mock interviews with people that are nervous about, their interview process. And we've got a really cool workplace giving program with our partners, WWF and Headspace. And I think we donated just under 33,000 since we launched that 6 months ago. So I think that to me is great to see. So that's very recent efforts, but a lot of people participating in that.
Yeah, I have to say, it's the most extremely charitable organisation, and always looking outward. Always thinking about or future-proofing what things are going to look like, down the track with regards to sustainability. And P just mentioned our relationship with Keep Cup, and we've got our little stations there. So we're culturally embedding that into people's minds. From my perspective personally, I think I'm probably a walking example of how incredibly generous Pepperstone is. When I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer last year and had an entire year of chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and they supported me right through, in as much as you do what you need to do to get better, and we will be there for you, and you are not going to be put on any kind of back burner, or you're not going. I never felt like I was losing on any level from my career perspective, and that very, very much is not the norm. Speaking to a lot of women who have dealt with this with their career, surprisingly, horrifically, I'm so lucky. But it really is just a testament to, you know, this is what happens in life. You know, these balls sort of get thrown at you, and you can't really control those uncontrollable things. And you've got people behind you that are prepared to support through that. So that's definitely there in this environment.
To add to that, I've seen a lot of women, unfortunately, for a lot of women, having a child can be a bit of a career break. I've seen, so we've got someone in our finance team, she got promoted when she came back from parental leave. I came back from parental leave last September, went into a more senior role after that. So it's absolutely not a showstopper. And I think, you know, how organisations treat, especially parents, not just mothers, but parents in general, is a really telltale sign. So another thing to look out for, I think, in your interview processes.
Yeah, and to put a bit of cream on top of all that, right? So they've got a fantastic office, lovely, lovely view on the 16th floor. They've got all day snacks. They've got a table tennis table. They've got a pool table. So it's so comfortable.
And Ben in the chat just shouted out Thirsty Thursday as well.
Yes,
What's
that's
happening
right.
there? Come down on a Thursday.
That's happening in a couple of hours.
I'm getting on a plane. I'm coming. That's awesome. So I am going to go to questions now, because I'm conscious of time. And there is a few questions in the chat. Just give me a moment to float back, because some of the questions have been answered by the community. This is why I love the Code Girl community. Everyone is just so supportive of each other. So that's awesome. I'm just going to make sure I go back enough that I get all the questions. So pop your question in the chat now if you want. We've got quite a few mid-career changes in the audience today. So they've really enjoyed your story today, Fiona. Just looking for more, how much, just talking about.
Tell you what, tech, agile, because we're in an agile environment. If anyone comes at you and says, you need 20 years experience, then hello, it's only been around that long. And if someone's like, oh, you know, how much experience do you have? And someone says, you've got 1 year and someone's got 10, you know, is that really 10, or is that 1 year times 10? So
yes,
it's not about how many times the sun's gone round while you've been working as an or whatever, or any other role. It's what you can provide in terms of those really important skill sets, like empathy and communication. And aside from the skills that are, you know, core for the job, if you're a dev or, you know, architect or anything like that, when if you can demonstrate you've worked for the last whatever years, and this is the passion behind me wanting to come into a new role. If you're pitching that to someone who doesn't believe in that, then why would you want to work there?
Yeah, that's awesome. We've got a question here that someone asked about how does Pepperstone view career shifts, especially those older and female, and what factors could applicants highlight? And I think, Fiona, you just answered that question. There's variety of your problem solving, your communication, creativity, as we've discussed in other roles. But as you just said, if they're not interested in those extra skills, why do you need to work there? It's very commonly known that the tech industry is screaming out for women right now. And I've heard of instances of them being paid actually up to 30% more than male colleagues. So I think now is the time as a woman to get into tech, because the demand is so high. And if someone's not going to someone's going to try and trick you out in an interview or not take on board the skills that you've learnt in another industry, you don't want to be there. So yeah.
I heard there was a few looking around specifically for people of that age bracket. Old, but you know, old is not having a phone at school old. So me, not grown up with a screen, and my first phone was a brick. That kind of, you know, age Gen X bracket, as a means to create another level of diversification. I live with two Gen Zs, 23 and 21, and I would balk at the thought of an entire organisation being run by the likes of them. It'd be nice to have, you know, diversity from other sort of, in a generational way, I suppose. But I guess it's how you kind of, you know, pitch that. There's value in that. There's absolute value in that. You'd have to back yourself on it. You really do. It's that, you know, you just need the person facing you to appreciate that and you know, employ some creativity around it.
Yeah, and as a female, oh, sorry, Fiona. Yeah, as a female, you don't have to change, right? So in this career, right, I've been told when I applied for leadership roles, right, I've been told you're too soft. You're not assertive enough. I'm going to pick him because he's, you know, he's loud or whatever, right? But, you know, and then I did try to change myself a little bit, but nowadays you don't need to change. You just be yourself, because they do need leaders with empathy, leaders that are a bit softer, and can have those delicate conversations, right? So yeah, don't try to change yourself just because somebody's saying, oh, you're soft, but those are the skills that we need in this new age.
I love that. I love that. We do have a question from Zviko. Zviko's a pretty active member of our community. Hi, Zviko. It's lovely to see you again. She's come to a lot of our events. She's asked about perfectionism and how someone might overcome this. She finds it crippling and stressful, and it stopped her in her tracks so many times during her career change journey. Makes her feel dumb and lazy. Zviko, she's hoping someone has advice. Zviko, my team's going to giggle at me because I say this a lot. Done is better than perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. And it is.
I would love you all to share as well, please. What's advice to Zviko, please?
It's the tyranny of
progress.
Sorry, go on. I was just going to say, it's the tyranny of progress. You just no Shana, please. I've had it too long.
I generally just tend to tell people around me that I'm feeling this way and get them to yell at me if I'm constantly, you know, being very hard on myself. So I tell that to my managers, I tell that to my partner, my friends, anybody who's willing to listen. I'll be like, hey, I'm being very hard on myself. Can you just remind me occasionally that, oh, just take it easy. You're doing okay. And that is sometimes all it takes, like, you know, just getting that basta, oh, I am doing whatever I'm supposed to do. And if I'm not able to achieve something, there might be another reason where I'm just trying to go too fast, you know, trying to cover off too many things in a very short period of time. That generally doesn't work, but I tend to do that a lot. So yeah, that is what has worked for me in the past. Like, just tell people that I'm doing this and make me stop.
Yeah, that's really
good. I can say though, Vico, if you worked on the origins of why perfection is really important to you, then I guess you could create strategies that are more meaningful. So, for instance, I deal with that too, and I realised that I was doing it because I was terrified of being pulled up and feeling like I was failing. I wanted to present something that everyone went, oh my God, that's amazing. We've got no feedback other than that. And I was too scared to have those conversations or be on the other side of, well, that really wasn't great. You need to work on this and this. I would feel sick at the thought of it. So I wouldn't allow myself to be in those conversations, and I try to mitigate them by doing perfect work that took 10 times the length of time, when I could have just stuffed it up, for want of a better term, had someone come back at me to give me some feedback on it, and then progressed that way. So I don't know if that helps, but I certainly had to go, why am I doing this, first of all?
Yeah.
I know we're over time, but I
Yes, I
also,
know.
just a quick one, I like to play the what if game. So say you're nervous about putting something out. You're like, okay, so what's the worst thing that can happen? Someone will criticize it. Okay, well, you know your team well enough. What's the worst thing if they criticize it? They'll probably show you how you could do it better. Or if they criticize it and they're not being good about it, okay, what if I really then hate working there? Well, I'm a skilled woman. I can go and find another job. Or what if I can't find another job? Well, I'm part of this great community at Code Like a Girl. Like I've got, a network there. They'll help me. So I think just talking it through like that makes it less daunting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really practical advice.
Like
Thank
whatever
you.
happens, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever happens, you will be fine. There is,
Yeah.
what's the worst that can happen? It's not that bad. So that's awesome. Thank you. A few people are asking if you hire remote in Perth. There's a bit of interest, to apply for a job with Pepperstone here. So we might, I'll chat to you after this and see if people want to get in contact with you to apply for anything, to see what job openings you've got, that sort of thing. Because
I just popped them all on your careers page as well this morning.
Yes, keep an eye. Oh, there we go. Keep an eye on the Code Like a Girl jobs board. We'll post a link to that in the follow-up email, everyone, to see what jobs are open at Pepperstone at the moment. I think that's it with the questions. Just obviously always a great community chat. So thank you everyone who's taken part in there, and a huge thank you to this amazing panel, inspirational women, great advice, and we've had a lot of fun, I think, too. So thank you all. I've had the most wonderful time getting to know you all better, and I'm sure our community has had just the same great time. Oh, Lizzie's popped a link to our jobs board in the chat as well. So jump on the Code Like a Girl jobs board. And yeah, we can't wait to see Pepperstone at another Code Like a Girl event soon. Thanks everyone. I'm so sorry it's gone over, but yeah, go for a walk before you get back to work.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks so much, everyone.